Hello and welcome back to another week of the Yahtzee Roundup podcast. I'm your host, Billy Asel, and it's a pleasure to have you back. We've got a crazy week this week, and we're coming right up into the finale of the first season. There's a lot of storylines, a lot of things that you need to know before the champion of the first season is unveiled. All this after the break.
Step right up, shake that cup. One roll, big luck. Welcome to the Yahtzee Roundup.
Yahtzee Roundup.
5 dice, 1 shot, can you line it all up? From the full house dream to that 5 of a kind. It's the Yahtzee Roundup where the scores unwind.
So this time next week, we'll be done with the first season of the Yahtzee Roundup, and we've got a lot going on in the standings. We're going to have a special guest interview later with Will, who's been on an absolute tear today. He's won 2 series in a row. But just looking at the standings right now, we've got Ben and Will tied at the top with 23 wins, John with 22 wins, and Billy with 18 wins. And as you know, we're going to 25. We've got kind of a real picture. It's a 3-horse race to the top. You know, Ben and Will pretty likely to win, but John could play as a spoiler. And Billy's role in this is really as a kingmaker. You know, he could steal a series from someone who really needs it, could steal a game from someone who really needs it. And that's the great thing about Yahtzee. It's an unpredictable game. Anything can happen. And what you're going to see this final week is you're going to see people come out when it matters most. You're going to see the players who maybe they haven't been the best all season. Maybe they've had up nights and down nights. Maybe they've been consistent all year. But if you want to win, coming down to the stretch, you're going to need to play some of the best Yahtzee you've played all year. And that's what we saw from William today. William came out today and won 4 out of 5 matches. Okay, he won the first series 2-0 convincingly. Second series, won the first match. Ben took the second one, and Will took the third one. And what you're really seeing here is you're seeing a late season surge from William. You know, he was down, he was in third place. We had Ben at 23 and John at 22, and you kind of thought those two guys were the ones that were going to close it out. But that's the thing about Yahtzee is you're going to see these people at the end of the season make a big jump. You know, it's one hot session, you win a couple of series, and boom, you're right at 25, and you've taken the crown, all right? So let's kind of get into the meat and potatoes of what happened this week. We had Ben with 4 wins, John with 3 wins, Will with 2, and Billy with 1. And what you're seeing here is Ben, who's been consistent all season, kind of coming back with a resurgence after, you know, he was really consistent at the start of the season, was winning big, took a couple weeks off with the neck injury. Then he came back, you know, what some fans might think was a little too early. You thought that maybe he wasn't 100%. And what he showed this week is that he is ready to play, okay? He's coming back from injury, and he's at the top of his game, winning 4 series this week. He's looking like one of the best players we've ever seen. You know, it's back to his prime form. His injury does not seem to affect him anymore, and his rolling of the dice it's pristine. So, you know, as we come up toward the end of the season, we've got a couple of contenders, and one of them is John Alverson. And, you know, John was at the top. He was tied with Ben for 22 wins a couple days ago, and you know, he slipped to 3rd here, but he's still got a chance. You know, he's only 1 match behind Ben and Will, and, you know, if he just takes 1 more, he's right there. And as I said before, all it is it's one hot session. He wins a couple of series, and bang, he's at 24 before Ben and Will are at 23. And then it's cake from there. Looking at some highlights from the week, we've got 2 games that were ended by game-winning Yahtzees, both courtesy of Billy. On Thursday, we had Billy with a game-winning Yahtzee, and then on Tuesday, we had a last roll Yahtzee on ones to take a game away from Ben, and that was a critical game that Ben lost there, because that would have been the series. And these are just the kind of, you know, these are the margins that you really can't miss out on, because you lose one game here on the last roll, and then you lose the series, and that stacks up. That's too big in too late part of the season. So we've got a special guest today. We're having William join us, who as I said earlier, has won 2 series today alone, and he's really looking to play spoiler this season and maybe make a run at the crown. So we'll be back after the break, and we'll have Will join us.
The legend, the runner-up, and the rookie. 3 cars, 1 champion. Does the king, Strip Weathers, have one more victory in him before retirement?
He's been Donico's golden boy for years. Can he win them one last Piston Cup?
And as always, in the second place spot, we find Chick Hicks. He's been chasing that tail fin his entire career.
His chance to finally emerge from the king's shadow, but the last thing he expected was
Queen! You know, I don't think anybody expected this. The rookie sensation came into the season unknown, but everyone...
William, welcome to the Yahtzee Roundup podcast. It's a pleasure to have you. Really interested, getting in and learning about what it's like to be a player, what it's like to be at the top. How are you viewing the end of the season? How are you viewing the big run that you made today? And just give us your overall thoughts.
Yeah, obviously 2 back-to-back wins today. That's huge. Tied Ben at the top at 23. It's been great. I think overall Yahtzee has been great, not just for me, but for other members of the chat. Just bringing us closer together. FaceTime calls every week, multiple times, texting. Doing this, me getting to talk to you this week, stuff like that. I think it's been a great way not only to compete with each other, but connect with each other on a different level. Being at the top, it's stressful, but at the end of the day, when you're playing your best, you can beat anyone. And I don't think that's true for anyone else in the league other than me. I think that, I'm the best of the best, and that's why I'm in first place.
Do you view yourself as a lover or as a fighter?
It's like Keanu Reeves said, if you're a lover, you got to be a fighter. Because if you don't fight for your love, what is love? And I resonate with that, because I think that love is so important in life. And fighting for your love is even more important, The more you fight for it, the more you want it, the more you need it, really, is the stronger the love is, the more important it is in your life.
And so, you talk about, how Yahtzee has kind of brought the community together. What does Yahtzee mean to you?
It means everything to me. I've been playing since I was a young kid. I played over COVID with my family. It's really special for me to be able to play with my family, connect with them over that, and then connect with them with my friends, even when I'm at college, thousands of miles away. Stuff like that. It's really special to be able to connect over something like that and call.
So, you're 2 wins away. Obviously, you had a great day today. How do you view your competitors? Ben and John's right behind you.
I think Ben's a great player. He's been a great player this entire year. He's someone I wouldn't say I admire, but I appreciate being alongside him. He's a great player, and he's in this league, and he's number 1 for a reason with me. John, it feels like John's not a guy you love to see win. He talks a lot, even when he's not winning. He's always making a statement, true or not true, about how he's always getting in second, stuff like that. And it's just like, at some point it gets to a point. And, I respect you for saying that. Even though you're not playing your best game, you're not chatting at us, you're keeping humble. You're just trying to keep steady and keep winning games. And I respect that from you, Billy.
So, Will, that after this season, there's going to be a lot of reforms. We're going to kind of overhaul our statistics department, and we're going to change, the season structure. What do you want to see from the future of Yahtzee?
What you said is a lot of things. I think it was mentioned in a previous video that going forward, we would have 10 first to 10 game season, and then we would have playoffs after that of some sort. We're still ironing that out. But I think another key thing would be that one member of our group chat, Jarrett Jardine, has not played this season. I think that it'd be great to see him on some calls, great to connect with him, because I feel it's such a stronger bond with you, John and Ben, over these last couple of months, and I think that Jarrett joining would be great.
Well, you have something unique that not a lot of players in the league have.
Really?
Your name is never the same. We have Ben as Beb. I am always in. And John has just recently taken on the name The Swan.
It's true. So
your name, you love to play sports, and it seems like you've kind of maybe taken some inspiration from some of the great athletes of our day. Before you load into every game, how do you pick your name?
I think that some of the time it's just off dome, it's whatever I'm feeling, it's whatever I want. Other times it's maybe more related. Bam Adebayo had 83 points the other night, so I actually made my name Khalil Ware after the famous interview he had about the Mount Rushmore. But I think it's hand in hand. If I'm watching a baseball game and we're about to play Yahtzee, maybe I make my name Jorge Mateo or something like that, an Orioles player. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's just me keeping calm. Picking players I love to see like Cam Reddish or Clint Capella, players like that. It's whatever comes off the brain at that point. And I also I don't think the fans know why is your name in. I know why. Can you give a little backstory to that?
It's just a shorten for a previous name I had, and it's kind of dwindled down over the years, and I really settled on in because I really figured that really kind of captured my personality. I'm all in.
Yep.
I'm always in it to win it, and I think it comes with some funny names. If I'm not in the game, I say I'm not in, but I am in.
Sure.
So it's just some funny jokes. It's great banter with the guys.
Yep, I agree.
So, Will, what do you think? Does it give you an edge that your name is, variable instead of static, allows you to come into each game with, a new mindset? Or do you think that maybe, you're missing some stability by not having the same name?
I think it could go both ways. I'm still deciding that myself. Even I won 2 games today. I don't think I'm going to repeat the name I had. I think I'm going to switch it up. So maybe that gets in my head. Maybe I want to repeat, but I won't because it's not who I am. And it's the same thing with losing. I was on a pretty big losing streak. I think I lost 7 straight or something like that, maybe even more. And it's like, hey, do I need to stick to a name? Do I need to get in a groove? But no, you keep moving forward. You change it up. You find what works. At the end of the day, the name's the name, but you're the same player. And that's what I believe thoroughly. And at the end of the day, I need to play my best game no matter what my name is.
Yeah, well, I mean, you do go by a lot of different names, but there are some patterns. I've noticed Cam Kearns is one of the most common repeat names you have. Can you kind of explain the backstory of that to us?
So Cam Kearns is a Skyline basketball player and a baseball player. We played him many times at Meridian High School. Me and Billy both have been on the same field or court as him. And I think that, as I mentioned before, many times I choose my name is when it's actually related to what we're talking or in real life. So many times we'll talk about basketball and the team that we had last year that made it to state semifinals, and Cam Kearns will come up, and then we'll end up playing a Yahtzee game soon later, and it's just top of my mind. I'm gonna choose Cam Kearns, or I'm gonna choose Andre Ford, or a player like that Skyline had.
What do you think is the most underrated tactic in Yahtzee right now?
Most underrated tactic. Let's see. Before I say mine, I would like to say what other people have thoughts. I know John is a big hater of the double Yahtzee mechanic about how it gives you an extra 100 points. I think that he thinks that as soon as you get that second Yahtzee, it's an auto win. That sucks, but I just think it's impressive to get 2 Yahtzees in a game, and it's almost rewarding. I think that an underrated one in my mind is the 4 Oak. I think that a lot of the times it's zeroed out, used as a free spot almost. I think that at the end of the day, that can give you an extra 25 points if you get 4 6s in another number, 3 5s or 4 5s or something like that, And I think it's so underrated having that extra amount of points. I think it makes it up on the top half if you need it. It makes it up if you don't get the full house or small straight, stuff like that. So I think that's so vital to me winning my games that I've won, as well as other people.
Well, I have a question for you. We're coming into a new season of Yahtzee. What are some records that you think should be tracked in the upcoming future?
I believe we have. Do we have 10 or 12 records tracked right now? Something like that.
I believe it's somewhere in that range. Low 10s.
Yeah. There's a lot of good ones. I think that I only hold 2. I think, which is the lowest one with 5, and then most shots in a row with 3.
Most shots. That is a great record. I have to admit.
Yeah, that's a hard one to get. Let's see. I think that what we could see is maybe ones that are done in order, or maybe more group records, I think. So maybe if a duo in a game has a great Oak score, let's say their Oak scores combined to be 115 or something like that. I think that could be there could be duo records like that. So if you and another member who's playing has a record like that, I think it could be all 4 of us too. If all 4 of us, get a Yahtzee, full house, small straight, large straight, and both Oaks, I think that could be something. Obviously that's very hard to happen, but I think that would maybe bring us more together if there were records that all of us could use together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, Will, it's been lovely to have you on. I'm very excited that we're wrapping up our first season of Yahtzee. Glad you could join the show. Any word to the community before we take off?
I just want to thank all the people that are, here at the start. I know that we're not a big thing yet. We don't have a ton of followers, don't have a ton of viewers. But I just want to say, if you're here now, we really do appreciate you. It means a lot to see you looking at these interviews, looking at the game results, stuff like that. So I really appreciate you guys watching these.
Thank you for joining the show, Will.
Thank you, Billy. It's been a pleasure.